This is Midnight Alchemy with your host Jason Allen on the Left Coast Media Network. And now here's Jason.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Midnight Alchemy, and I am your locomotive conductor tonight, Jason Allen. Hello, it's great to be back. We're going to have a great episode tonight. We got Sir Bryan Bowden with us, and we are talking conspiracy theories. So anyways, hey, I've broken this up into two parts because there is so much information and we really go into the weeds on this. So I wanted to make sure we were covered with two parts. So without further ado, I'm gonna just dispense with the news tonight, and we're gonna go straight to it. This is the interview with Sir Bryan Bowden. We are going to be talking with Sir Bryan Bowden, and let me give you just a little taste of who Sir Bryan is. Bryan was born and raised in New York City. Sir Bryan set a path of architectural engineering, but succumbed to the reality of business was his future. Yeah, and still he attained that abiding love of the sciences. He managed to squeeze in physics and astronomy while studying finance, and graduated from Pace University with a degree of international finance with a minor of engineering emerging markets. Bryan, you did not go light. It wasn't like you studied underwater basket weaving. So kudos to that. As a child, Bryan experienced some unusual events that drove his curiosity and would later propel him into becoming a boots-on-the-ground UFO, cryptid, and paranormal researcher and investigator. Since 1977, he has used the spare time to explore those areas of interest, traveling the world in pursuit of truth. His experiences in the paranormal realm cover the gambit of the Goblin universe, from encounters with Sasquatch, dogmen, and spirits of several UFO experiences. He has been a driving force in his quest for more knowledge and ultimate, answers. Okay, I'm going to go down the byline a little bit because I love this part. Sir Bryan is he's a real life Knights Templar. His official title is Sir Knight Bryan M. Bowden, and often refers to it in appearances like today. Sir Bryan is a member of the IRVA, the International Remote Viewers Association, the founder and director of the NYSU FOP, that is the New York State UFO Project, NYSSO, New York State Sasquatch Organization, and the NYSBP, New York State Dogman Project. He is a former director of the North American Dogman Project, New York State chapter, and the North American correspondent for Outer Limits magazine. I've heard of that, and it's pretty cool. He is the co-host of Inside the Goblin Universe with Ronald Murphy, host of No Bo Boomy, which stands for Nobody But Me. He was invited to join and serve as a co-host on the 3 Beards podcast. Again, I've heard of that also. He has also had several appearances on Dave Scott's Spaced Out Radio, and has also appeared in numerous newspaper articles, Independent Times, television series, and variety top tiers. He is going to be appearing and has appeared in multiple media such as television and radio. He is always working on a series of new books based on his experiences, investigations, and theories, as well as a few children's books and short stories. His latest publication, Words and Muses, a lyrical life and poetry, is on sale at Amazon. He is currently developing new intellectual property for both TV and big screen, as well as scheduling investigations, conferences, and events for the year ahead. Bryan, welcome. Please don't mind my bungling certain words as I'm going through. It is a pleasure.
I'm giving myself applause here.
Right, it's a pleasure and honor to have you. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm great. It's a pleasure to be here, Jason. And I got the message that my buddy and my other half put together.
Oh yeah.
It's like introducing us, and I'm like, what is he getting me into?
If only you knew.
Oh, I've he knows with me that we've been investigating all the high strangeness and UFOs and whatever for a decade plus. and he knows that like I just will like, oh, by the way, we're directors of this now, and he's like, what? I'll just invite him to, and say, he's like, you're always putting me in things, and I'm like, yep, and we're getting tattoos next Thursday. Let's next up on the, just joking,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Clear
what I
your
do.
schedule.
Yeah, clear your schedule. Tell your wife.
Awesome, man.
So,
Yeah, when I was talking to the Squatch Father here, he said, man, the go-to guy is Brian or Sir Brian. And I am happy as well, a bald-headed pig in a sty to have you on today.
well,
Uh,
it's yeah, my
I
pleasure.
go ahead.
No, no, my pleasure. It's
Oh,
I appreciate you having me on, and
mhm.
I um I'm willing to talk about just about anything. So, that's how I am.
Oh
I
yeah.
can,
I'm one of those guys that when I interview, it's a very informal style. I just want people to think like we're just sitting around uh, shooting the poo, and
yeah.
I let the interview take us just wherever we're going because I'm often going in the left field. Uh, so
Not a problem whatsoever.
away
So,
away we go.
yes,
I've
sir.
always had an interest in conspiracy theories as a history major in college. Some things just don't naturally sound right, and I've always had questions that cannot be answered by the rank and file of historians and or researchers. So I've always had that in the back of my mind, right? And I think it's
100%.
also, yeah, skepticism is also healthy. And if you hear crinkling in the background, it's my puppy going nuts. So
That's not a soon to be me. If
yeah,
I get my way and I don't get vetoed by the wife and the kids. But
yeah,
yeah.
excellent. Um, so let's start at the begin. Hey, I know on the biography it said 1977, but can you tell us a little bit how you got interested? Was this from the cradle sort of uh thing?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's from the cradle, but I've always been interested in a lot of different things, and I took interest in it, and I would kind of investigate it the best I could. And if you're talking about 1970s, growing up,
Yeah.
we didn't have the internet. We had no electronics like that. We had TV,
Hmm.
and this was pre like everybody getting cable.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So you were the antenna. Move left.
Right,
Whatever. Okay,
right.
okay, okay.
Oh
Get me
yeah,
more tinfoil.
right,
And
right,
so,
right.
but I love those. I don't know if they were. I wouldn't say they were conspiracy theory shows, but they were like sci-fi, the what ifs,
Yeah,
and the show that really
yeah.
propelled me like into. I always liked monster movies and
Hmm.
stories, and Leonard Nimoy's In Search of
I
was,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't like him in the turtleneck, but they talked about Bigfoot, and I never liked turtlenecks, and that was a whole 70s
Oh yeah,
really bad idea.
yeah.
Um, they talked about Bigfoot, they talk about UFOs, they talk about, you know, Loch Ness monster and these strange things, and I was like, this is so cool. And then I got into sciences. So my elementary school was in New York City, was the only school that had its own planetarium.
Yeah.
So they had a planetarium. So I just thought it was the coolest thing. And my science teacher, Mr. Bernstein, who I know him as Steve now. I mean, it took me years because I worked with him. He worked at summer camp where I was
Hmm.
at. He's like, Brian, you can call me Steve. I'm like, okay, Mr. Bernstein. It's just like,
Right.
you know, but I remember he would play the Beatles, um, you know, um, Abbey Road album, and he'd like play Here Comes the Sun, and he'd have the sun, going up on the dome inside. And it was just like amazing. And then
Yeah.
they talked about the space shuttle before it was a space shuttle. They were testing it.
Yeah.
So I always had an interest in that with the planets and the aliens and what if life lived there. And I started asking questions, and then
Hmm.
you would research. So you go to encyclopedias.
Yeah.
Um, and it's actually really interesting. Something that has come up recently, talk about a conspiracy.
Hmm.
And I remember this because I have a photographic memory and autographic memory.
Hmm.
Although my wife will totally deny that, but it's the truth. I do.
Mhm.
And I remember, you look up through the encyclopedias, like all 27 books, whatever it was. That's how you did your research.
Sure.
And I was also lucky that my father worked for Wide World Photos, and they were part of the Associated Press.
Mhm.
And he used to bring me home those pictures, the classic pictures of Nessie,
Okay.
8.5 by 11s.
Mhm.
So, and
Yeah.
I'd show my friends, and we'd talk about monsters and Lon Chaney and whatever.
Yeah.
And like, so I had UFO pictures, I had Bigfoot pictures, I had everything.
Mhm.
And that's what it was. And that drove I was always curious. So I'm one of these people that will try to figure things out. And my mother, who's a special ed teacher, I'm one of three sons, and I'm in the middle. So my mother, she took me to all these tests because I wasn't that great in school,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
And she probably thought I had some kind of, now they call it learning disability. Back then they called it like I was blank. I'm not going to do
Sure.
it because I don't want you to get protested, whatever. But we grew up, everybody was fine from that.
Yeah.
So, I would say that she thought I was stupid. And every place
Mhm.
we went to for testing is a major university.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've been to Columbia, I've been to NYU, Hunter College, a bunch of different, I mean, at least 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah.
And what they do is they assess you, they look at you, they ask you questions, and then they give you, basically, it's an IQ test, intelligent quotient test.
Yeah.
And I remember it all. And I remember one time being there, and I had my back to this big mirror in this room, and he's like, like, why are you so nervous? Why, like, well, and I told him, I said, well, I don't like to be watched by so many people at one time, because I'm counting with my fingers, some of the math.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, there's nobody here for me. I said, wrong. There's about 3 people behind me through that glass,
Yeah.
and you can hear them laughing,
Yeah.
So my lowest score on any examination that I got was 179. Um, and then I remember at my last one, like Columbia or whatever it was,
Yeah.
I remember being in the room. So they're giving you the synopsis of what they feel is going on with me.
Yeah.
And I said, she said, well, what is his score? And he goes, um, I'd love to tell you, but we can't calculate it. But we know it's well over 200.
No.
And my mother was like, whatever. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not doing that to pat myself on the back, but I've always been very inquisitive. I've always tried to, look for things. I'm very creative. I use two parts of my the brain.
Oh yeah.
I'm self-taught in guitar, bass, piano, and some other instruments. And I did art and I did design and what I had to teach myself in 4th grade math.
Mhm.
Uh, and then I've been teaching myself ever since, how
Yeah.
to figure it out. Because teaching in New York City is sucks. Like a better word.
Yeah.
And to and teaching back then is like amazing compared to what they're doing today.
Sure. Sure.
Okay. So that's how I started with it. And it's always been
Yeah.
inquisitive. And um part of this is, unbeknownst to me, everybody wants to feel like they're special, but um I used to get into a lot of those. They show you like psychic spy stuff, right?
Mhm.
So, like,
Yeah.
oh, they'll hold up a card and 3 squiggly lines or a
Yeah.
star or whatever. And I'm like, maybe I could do that. So I started, you know, doing it with decks of cards, whatever. Or
Yeah.
and then that got boring. Not that I was mastering it. I was like, your brain, when you're younger, your brain's kind of like Homer Simpson's. Well, the Declaration of Independence. Ooh, look, a donut. It's
Right. Right. Oh yeah.
that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
So, but I started doing other things that actually use your third eye, which
Mhm.
is right there. It's part of your pineal gland. And what I started doing was I was taking the growing up, I took a bus to school. And
Mhm.
as a kid, you gravitate to the back for whatever reason that is. Maybe you
Yeah.
just don't want to hang out with people. So you'd have a long bus ride and it would get boring. So I just sit in the back and I just kind of stare at someone from behind
Mm-hmm.
and just go say in my head, turn around, come on,
Yeah.
turn around, say hi.
Yeah.
And I do it often because it's like you want to see if they'll turn around. And 9 out of 10 times you'll get somebody. It's like, and they
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
because you're unbeknownst to you, you're actually connecting.
Sure.
And these are gifts and abilities everybody has.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody uses, right?
Right.
Then you'll get those people that are really talented with it or just know. And you like turn around and they just shoot you a look like cut the crap. And you're like, yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's like pick on somebody else, leave me alone. And
Right.
they're in it. They're in the moment, so they get it. Whether they're really truly, they'll call it psychic or whatever.
Sure.
I don't know. So this is where it started. And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, when you get a wheels and you can now travel and you can do and throughout my life, I had an encounter with a Bigfoot when in like 1977, 78, 79. I forgot what year it is.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing was in my summer camp, and his head filled the 3x3 window.
Wow.
And he's kind of looking in, peeking into it, like looking around our bunk, and my feet are right by that window. He could literally, I kid you not, my feet are no more than an inch away from this thing's face. The window's closed, mind you, and he could have just went, grabbed
Sure.
me and pulled.
Yeah.
And I had a
Oh,
UFO
yeah.
experience up in that camp
Mhm.
with at least 12 of my friends. We all like, look, what's a UFO? And then after that's like, let's go play D&D. And you run inside or like you play cards or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So, but as I got older and I have ability to move and whatever,
Mhm.
I investigate the weird things, and that's where it started. But I've
Yeah.
always been questioning stuff
Yeah.
and always thinking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I always think 10 steps ahead,
Mhm.
10 steps behind, right and left.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting that when you can assess a situation, what's currently going on, you have enough information and education to know what's going on in different parts of the world to make an assessment what's really taking place.
Right. Right. Most
And so I
definitely.
do that.
Yeah. When you were talking, a lot of stuff sounded familiar. I remember when I was upper grade school, middle school, they were concerned because while I wouldn't get great test scores, I mean, if you sat
Right.
down and just talked, you know, you could tell that there was something a little different. And so they did testing on me too. And they explained to me their concept of 98, 99% of people have what's called a linear learning, right?
Yeah.
A plus B, equals C. And they told me that I was more of an elliptical. I would come at things from a different direction, and it answered a lot of questions for me. But at the time, back in the 80s, they didn't have a lot of it wasn't down pat yet. They didn't have the theories complete. There wasn't a lot of research in it. And it really made sense to me to the point where it clicked, and I knew then who I was, how I was, how I was learning and stuff, and how to come at different things. And even today, I'll be talking and, hey, look, a squirrel, and
Yeah, I'm not that bad, but I always use that Homer Simpson, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
I have a friend that is totally like Homer Simpson. I'm telling him something. I'm like, you're not even listening. He goes, gee, thanks. I'd like an omelet now. I mean, he'll just come up with it. But the
yeah,
thing is, growing up, if I mind flipping this on you for a second,
yeah, go for it.
what kind of were you a music guy? Were you a creative guy? Were
Yep.
you have a lot of creativity? Were you into photography? What
Mhm.
were you into? Because
Yeah,
people that are into and are very creative, and we're going to
yeah,
say we use the term creative. You like color, you like movies, you like radio, you like music, whatever.
oh yeah,
Okay. And like I said before, you use two hemispheres of your brain.
right,
Women use it a lot more. There's a lot more people that
yeah,
have adapted their abilities better because they're using two hemispheres.
yeah,
Creative people, scientific people, quantitative people,
hmm,
they don't think linear.
yeah,
It's like 5-dimensional chess.
Yeah.
And that's a big word they use today
Yeah.
because there's 5 different layers going at once. And you're not just asking the A, B, C, D, and E question, but then
Right.
you go on E1, E2, E3, E -1, -2. There's a
Right.
lot going on there.
Right.
And sometimes it's kind of hard to quantify.
Right. Yep.
And that's how you do it. Yeah. Be proud of yourself.
Oh, why, thank you. No, it's just constant. When I was growing up, there was always this constant, how did you get there from here?
Yeah.
How did you arrive at this? And so I'd sit there and have to explain and stuff, and you could tell by a quarter of the way through, people's eyes would gloss over. But yeah, I was very creative as a kid. Music, was my first love. I always loved the monster movies. And I was, from an early age, I was always interested in mythology, the stories of
Yep.
that, and I just would,
Minotaur,
yeah,
Siren. Yep.
I would devour everything Joseph Campbell ever wrote. Just the
Yep.
understanding the mythos of
Jules
Pan.
Verne.
Yeah.
Jules Verne for the
Yep.
most part. I
Oh yeah.
wasn't a big reader initially.
Hmm.
I it's really weird. My daughters do it and pisses my wife off. They can skim and they get it. They get the
Yeah.
information. And
Yeah.
the teacher's like, she knows what the heck's going on. She can tell you right off the bat. But if you ask her to drill down specific sometimes, because she just scans, she can get it. She picks it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
But yeah. I think it's also, believe it or not, when we grew up, I don't know about you, but we're in that, what is it, Gen X?
Yep.
And that latchkey, whatever,
Hmm.
it was survival of the fittest. It
Yeah.
literally was like Lord of the Flies to a
Yeah.
certain degree,
Yep.
even within the different groups.
Mm.
And you had to learn to adapt to survive.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then throw onto that the first video games, the arcades. And we're now, I talk about conspiracies.
yeah.
There is a conspiracy out there that the video game systems were created based off of stuff for lettered agencies
Hmm.
to kind of train, I don't know if it's like an MK Ultra type of thing, but to
Condition.
see how the pattern,
Yeah.
recognition and I think what it does is I think a lot of these video games, which initially worked off of patterns,
Hmm.
so you have to know the pattern for Donkey Kong, like 3 3 3 2, hit.
Yeah.
But when you started doing it, like one of my favorites was Asteroids and then Miss Pac-Man,
Oh
and you
yeah.
can get up to so many levels.
Hmm.
And if you watch people and you watch, your eyes when you're doing it, there's a zen,
Yeah.
and you're just and the hand-eye coordination is perfect. And I think that helped. And I think they're partially right. I can't prove it, but I think a lot of these video games kind of enhanced our generation,
Sure.
unbeknownst to us.
Yeah. I've I've always referred to our generation. I was born in '69. I've always referred to our generation as a bridge generation because we are the last generation before the internet. Right. I
Yeah,
mean, we as much as bridge generations when electricity was started to use, the automobile was introduced, uh even later on, boomers, man on the moon. But Gen Xers, I think we're one of the most interesting, and I think it's going to be studied in the future, the most interesting generation, simply because we were transitioning
oh
through
yeah,
something now that we've recognized now in the information, the, the ways that we receive information, and just how to explain to your kid what things were before the internet,
yeah.
how we did something.
We were the last generation to use our imagination.
Yes, I totally agree. The theater of the mind, you know.
Huge. We are the last. We know how to be by ourselves,
Yeah,
and we're
exactly.
really comfortable with it. We
Yep.
don't always like it. I mean, no one likes being by themselves.
Yeah.
They always want a companion, and sometimes, dogs or cats or whatever.
Yeah.
People want to. There's something to human touch,
Yeah.
which is important. But we're the last generation to have to sit there and make up a story and look at the clouds as you're
Yeah.
driving in your folks' car, listening to AM radio, probably
Mhm.
jazz, and
Yeah.
going, I'm in hell, but that looks like an elephant, you know?
Right, yeah. And
Yeah.
I've thought that video games since then haven't they, obviously you get better graphics and everything, but the storytelling of it hasn't evolved simply because they're just upon the foundations of fantasy, sci-fi, or themes that have been laid down in the earlier to mid part of the 20th century,
Yeah.
including space, you know.
Well, it's really interesting because if you look at the beginning of the Pong, bing, 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 and
Right.
you'll know this. Remember that sound? Everybody's
Yes.
like red's turning because that
Yeah.
was like $30 game back then. How much is that? $30. And
Yeah.
$30 is like almost $90, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Electronic
huge.
football. So we went from games with patterns
Yeah.
to more strategy based stuff. Like
Right.
I remember when the first real PC came where you would afford it,
Yeah.
there was Mist. I think it was called Mist.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh.
And what was great about that genius is you had to think, you
Yeah.
had to do puzzles.
Right.
And one of my favorite games ever is a game called Under the Killing Moon series. It was a great game. But we went from these games where you had to think and then unlock X, Y, and Z
Yeah.
and then do something to bouncing around like an age,
Right.
attention deficit person shooting. Yeah, I got you. And then trash talking and no respect and nothing. Everybody's just all over the freaking place. And
Yeah.
and we numbed down,
Yeah.
created a numbness to
Mhm.
generation by generation about killing.
Desensitized, you bet.
One of us desensitized.
Yeah.
No, we're numb. It's
Right.
not even, it's like whatever. I played a great game series. This is actually important in relationship to what's going on in the world today.
Mhm.
There's a great game. If you haven't played it and you're a video game guy, you can get it on Xbox. I think you can get it on the other Sony as well.
Mhm.
And you get it for like really inexpensive. They have 3 of them. It's called BioShock.
Yes, I've heard of that. Uh-huh.
Okay. First of all, not really big on some of the stories in these games. They're just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
You want me to get the golden egg? I'll go find the golden egg. Okay.
Right.
This had an amazing story, like Aaron Rand type of story. John,
Mhm. Yeah.
who's John Galt. It had that kind of essence to it.
Yeah.
It had the what's the Citizen Kane feel to it.
Yeah.
Meet technology,
Mhm.
underwater, 20,000 leagues in the sea.
Mhm.
But here's the thing: they had this product called Eve,
Okay.
and Eve is what gave you the energy and helped enhance your whatever you take it.
Yeah.
And in order to get Eve, you either have to find it or you can extract it from a being in the game.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the being in the game that gave you the most Eve or all the Eve was children.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So I remember this. I remember playing this game even before I had kids.
Mhm.
That is a moral dilemma.
Right.
Here I go. I have a little girl that's climbing on my shoulder, and I could take her to safety, and I'll get a little bit of reward,
Yeah.
or I can extract her essence. Does it sound like something that people have been talking about?
Mhm.
Begins with an A,
Yeah.
rhymes with chrome. Okay.
Yeah.
Once you take a person and have them have no problems about hurting children
Yeah.
or dogs or puppies, technically you're creating sociopaths and psychopaths.
Yeah. No kidding. I always felt that video games, even at a young age, I always felt that I was being conditioned. And that desensitization of a changing world, and I always felt that it wasn't like just me coming up with something; it was something that was derived for me to arrive at, and to each person to arrive at. And the words I think today that have lost any sort of usage and gloss over our younger generation is critical thinking.
Yep.
You know, being that independent enough to examine something and come up with your own. Now everything is explained for you, and to me that is so dangerous. When you have that.
Yeah, we just had this kind of conversation because
Yeah.
Part of me being late is I had to get back home, but then my brother showed up, which I haven't seen in forever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, got to do an interview, like, screw you. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, well, you didn't tell me you were coming. So, whatever.
Yeah.
But our friend came over and her daughter is 21 or 22 and she lives in like Miami or something. And I'm in Florida now.
Uh-huh.
And she calls her mother up and goes, I don't know what to do. The remote, I think the battery's dead, and I think you got me a new one, and I'm gonna be late for work. She had no clue.
Yeah.
No clue
Yeah.
how to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
None.
Totally agree.
And the problem with that is,
Yeah.
if you can't figure out that you have this device, everybody holds it, and you can go, Grand Cherokee key fob battery replacement.
Sure.
What do I do? Key fob's dead, start car. And if you don't get 15 videos coming up, which you're going to, and you can figure it out,
yeah,
that's a problem.
Yeah, most definitely. The critical thinking, the autonomy to do something has been lost.
Yep.
And I try to explain things to my kid. Imagine this, right? Imagine this generation trying to do the Dewey Decimal System.
That would be great.
Right.
What? Where did this card go? Come
right.
on, you got 10 seconds.
Yeah. 120 point something. Where do I go to that in the library? I'm lost.
Yeah. I mean, if they can't search quickly or use emoji to express themselves, they're I said it. I remember this is like 2 years. This is at the height of the C stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, about a year after the C stuff, I was in Walgreens looking for some, whatever, alcohol or something to sterilization or something like that, whatever, and aspirins. And this kid was just about 15 years old or 15 to 17.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't figure out like what are the wipes? What wipes you talking about for the laundry?
Yeah.
Fabric softener sheets.
Yeah.
And it was just like pathetic. Like they can't function, they can't operate.
Right.
And there was a woman there, and I said, thank God this isn't 1940s, because we'd be all speaking German right now.
Yeah, yes, there's some truth to that.
Because these kids, and I'm worried about my kids doing it too. They will sell you out, your parents out, my opinion, for free Wi-Fi and a Starbucks.
Yeah.
Come on. Where's mom? Where's mom? Oh, look. Tell me where mom is, and I'll get you the internet. Hold on, let me get you the internet. You tell me where mom is. Yeah. And you give like access to your internet. I'm like, well, they said something about going to Chicago. Oh, okay. You have a way of contacting him? Well, I'm like, hold on. What Starbucks do you want? Oh, really? Yeah. I'll get you Starbucks. Just let me know which one. Okay. Sure. Oh, they said they're going to go on the South Side at Sam's Club. Whatever.
Yeah.
They don't think.
Yeah.
It's a me. And not they don't have no idea about family. Even though we were latchkey.
Yeah.
There was a bit more family there, but now it's no fathers, no mothers.
Yep.
They had a father down here who sawed his son in half with a saw, killed him.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, look, I'm only speaking from a parent's perspective.
Yeah.
When you hold something you've created, and there's a lot of people that shouldn't be creating, that's a totally different subject.
Right.
But when you hold this thing and your son or your daughter, and they're and you're helping them to, how can you take them out? What was so bad? I mean, don't get me wrong, you come at me with a knife or a gun, it's going to be a different story. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
But it's like, what could be that terrible or wrong? You know,
Yeah.
unless
Yeah.
you have like what's his name? One of the serial killers, as a
Sure.
son. Like, even those people that whose parents probably abused the crap out of them, if their father, what are you doing? You're
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. But how can you do that? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
No, 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 not at all. No checks and balances. Everything's transactional.
Yeah.
And so let's delve into the conspiracy theories. How as we talk about the younger generation and stuff, uh, how do they get sold information that us older guys see right away as, yeah, this is a conspiracy. There's something going on. This isn't as, what it seems. As a younger generation, how is that now sold to?
So in the past, and I can only speak from my point of view, being roughly the same age
Hmm.
on forward, we were at least given a foundation of a real education for the most part.
Hmm.
With the and I believe the 60s, 50s and 60s and 70s is where they started testing. When I say they, the government and also communist
Sure.
Russia or whatever,
Hmm.
they started infiltrating and seeing where they can get into the system. And if you capture the young, you turn the young,
Yep.
and anything thereafter is going to be yours.
Yeah.
This is the manifesto. I forgot his name, who one of the Russian defects said it's a long process, but once we'll get into it, we get into the school systems and the universities, and we
Yeah.
teach your children, and then you kind of carry that as the truth, and then we get into the school systems and the school unions. A lot of the unions have a lot of these people in it,
Hmm.
and they use the unions and they dictate, like, more socialism, more this, more that, and they teach you more about your pie and my pie, instead of like, you have a right, if you're working
Yeah.
36 hours a week, 40 hours a week to get paid $20 an hour. They're like, well, you know what, we need to share this,
Hmm.
so we're going to go on strike now, but you need to go and you're going to get fired from it, but it's all right, we'll hire you back eventually.
Sure. Sure.
And people
I,
are like, well, as long as I'm in the union, I guess they'll hire me back. This is
right.
how it started.
Hmm.
Okay. On top of this, and this is really very evident right now, the historical record
Hmm.
is all one giant conspiracy theory.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, you know, Amerigo Vespucci, whoever was the first to come to America,
Yeah.
you guess what? He wasn't. Guess what? It very well could have been the Phoenicians or the Egyptians or the
Totally agree.
Scottish or the
Yeah.
Celtics.
This whole
Okay.
this whole Columbus,
Yeah.
takes over America or whatever is
Yeah.
is crap.
It's a
Uh,
bunch of crap.
yeah, whether it be the Vikings, the Chinese, uh,
Um, I think some of the I think a lot of cultures have come to this mainland USA
mhm,
well prior to any, like Columbus. Okay.
yeah,
First of all, if you get into the Middle America, South America, Middle America, with the Aztecs and the Mayans and whatever,
yeah,
they've gone all the way up. It's a known fact they've gone all the way up to Minnesota.
yeah,
Okay.
hmm,
When you see some of the stuff, artifacts that shouldn't be here, but are very reminiscent of um Celtic or Nordic.
right,
Okay.
right,
And then you start seeing things that relate to the Phoenicians.
yeah,
For Christ's sake, I think it was in the 30s, 40s. I forgot the year. They
hmm,
found in the Grand Canyon, Arizona, Grand
yeah,
Canyon, they found a cave
yep,
with hieroglyphics
hmm,
and a I forgot the name of not a high, is it a the female or god that has multiple hands?
oh well,
Um
there's a tons of
Sheba.
yeah, yeah,
They found Sheba. They
yeah,
found giants And I'm talking 20-foot plus tall individuals,
Right.
swords that are bigger than your home.
Yeah.
And all these, they have, I mean, I wish I could show it to you. I have a picture. It's literally, it looks exactly like the Sphinx in
Yeah.
the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay.
and those are just tramped down uh almost the next day, the next minute. You get this brief glimpse of something, and then you're told, no, 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 this is just the story.
Right.
This is I mean, again, Göbekli Tepe,
Yep.
when it was first, excavated and things. I mean, you heard some just fantastic uh stories coming out of there, and then all of a sudden, bam, you don't know nothing anymore about it. And
Or
you have,
yeah,
you had that brief glimmer of something before it gets tramped down.
or the government finds out about it
Yep.
and shuts down and blows up the entrance to the cave, takes
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
takes everything first, and then blows it up, or puts a not no access around it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Have it in place right now. On top of that, you really want to go back further.
Mhm.
People are going to kill me because I'm a God-fearing person,
Sure.
also an ordained minister, so I believe in God.
Yep.
But pretty similar how the the Old Testament
Yeah.
got the New Testament, which got King James, whatever.
Sure.
Wow, it sounds very much like another culture's tales and fables
Mm-hmm.
about floods and
Yep.
this person and that. So, and then on top of that, you get an empire that knows that they're on the way out, and the people are starting getting riled up because this really thin kid starts all this crap,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They put him on. They supposedly crucify him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Through his hands. They put 2 spikes through his hands. He would have fallen to the ground. You would ripped his hands open. But
Right.
the whole point is, they take that and someone said, look, if we now run on this and we use this, and then you declare whatever, you're the king, you're the rule, and there's your modern day
All
Catholic
about,
Church.
yep, all about power. Uh,
Mhm.
I've stated this on the show before. Before I met my wife, I was actually going to become a Catholic priest, and I always had questions there too, because they never realized. They always blind faith, right? You believe this, yada yada yada,
Right.
orthodoxy. And I had questions about it simply because I was a history major before. I degree in history. I come at things just a little different, that just doesn't jibe.
You're just like the guy when I do the Three Beards
Yeah.
podcast on Wednesdays. The guy that started, Craig Ansel, he went to seminary school, and
Yep.
he comes at a different angle, and he's like, "Rah, rah," and then it's
Mhm.
over. They're like, yeah, we don't need you here. You got to move on. Move on.
Right.
These aren't the priests you're looking for.
No, yeah, not at all. I got heavy into research. Well, first, when I was there, I studied dogmatic theology and Christology. And so I started reading things like the Apocrypha, all the things that didn't get included in the Council of Nicaea, yada,
Yep.
yada, yada. And I had questions about that, and they were like, no, 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 this is heresy. You don't want to know this. But then how do you decide what goes into the Bible, right? Who decided this? Who decided that yes, this is true, no, this is not true? When you're talking about many different accounts, even the 4 Gospels, written what, 40, 50, 60, 70 years after the fact, not even written by the people that did it. And then again, you go through at that time more of an oral tradition.
Right.
Someone tells someone, tells someone. And I always I equated
Telephone.
it to this little line from a movie in the 80s called Johnny Dangerously. Michael
Right.
Keaton, right? He's sitting at the table, in prison,
Yep.
and
Yep.
at one end the guy says, they're going to kill Johnny's brother at this time tonight at this place, theater. And it goes down the line until it gets to the guy that speaks to Michael Keaton, and he says, Johnny and the Mothers are going to be performing at the Savoy tonight. And then Keaton goes, "What? They're going to kill my brother?"
Yeah, he picks, yeah.
And
So
so,
yeah, I love that scene because um I've actually recited the one of the bus.
mhm.
When's the next bus?
Yeah.
Well, the Little Meridians as a prayer once for over in a lodge meeting,
Mhm.
and we had people like, I've never heard that prayer before, and the lead of our lodge is like half of us are cracking up, but I
Mhm.
gave them that prayer, which is great. All the Little Meridians,
Right.
um,
Oh, the Little Meridians. Yeah.
all the Little Meridians.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the whole thing, right? So you're not even including the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found,
Yep.
which were tons and tons of books. And
Yeah.
there were females that wrote books too.
Yes. Yeah.
Mary is the Book of Mary.
Mhm.
Oh, we're not going to put that in there because women are not holy. Men are holier than women.
Mhm.
Blah 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 blah. Whatever.
Yeah.
And in a lot of religions, Western-based religions, women, and I'm going to say this, but it's true, women are underneath cattle.
Yeah.
Cattle is more important,
Yeah.
cattle meaning sheep and farming, than women. Women's purpose is to procreate and breed, and you take care of them, and I will do what I wish.
Right. In a
Right?
patriarchal society, I mean, who calls the shots? I mean, it's amazing how Mary Magdalene went from being a companion to Jesus as okay. I'm probably gonna have to put explicit language on this podcast, but she got turned into a whore.
Yeah.
And,
But what people don't realize is that the cup of Christ, that the Holy Grail,
yeah,
I think I kind of lean towards it's the womb of Mary. That's the Holy Grail.
yeah,
That we're gonna get in so much trouble because of today's society,
yeah,
but men have a certain point and women has a certain point, and
yeah,
together with a man and a woman, you create life.
yeah,
You cannot create life any other way other than with a man and a woman. Sperm, egg. That's it.
sure, sure,
In order to continue and give life, and if you want to go theologically, what God wants you, what is the first thing he said? Be fruitful and multiply.
multiply, yeah,
That is life.
mm-hmm.
See what you do now, beget your son and you teach him, and then your son goes, my dad used to say this, and he teaches it. I mean, grandpa used to, so you're teaching grandpa, as a grandpa, you'll teach their children, but he'll also teach them. And then they'll teach from, well, my great grandpa used to, blah, 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 and then that's life. That's how life grows and continues.
Yeah, yeah,
So, but they don't want that because what happens is they have to have people under the thumb of an authoritative figure.
yep,
And that's first was religion.
yep,
Well, not all religions, but religion. And then after that it becomes governments.
mm-hmm.
Then it goes to the minor, local, city, state, local, federal. And no, you can't do that because we said so.
Right,
You have to go to church to pray to God. I'll let you in a little secret. No, you don't.
nope,
God is everywhere, and
yeah,
God is listening everywhere.
yeah,
I need what a church or temple or a mosque or whatever you go to provides you is not the place to go.
mm-hmm.
It provides you community.
Right,
And originally we're tribal.
yep,
We're nomadic and tribal. That's what nomads, they're all the same thing.
mm-hmm.
So when you went together under the same tent, you're all together. Everybody knows what's going on. I'll help you. We'll get you. So, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and everybody knows everybody, and everybody's looking out for everybody.
Right, right,
That's the whole thing about religion. But that's one of the hugest conspiracy theories out there.
sure,
This stuff, and people believe it. And when I said the fossil record, the scientific record,
mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
the stuff they're finding right now, it
right,
goes against everything they're talking about.
right, exactly,
Everything.
yeah,
So you got to take the science and throw it the F out.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm not saying I'm a scientist. I studied some science. I didn't go into it because I actually wanted to make money and live, whatever.
Sure. Sure.
But if 99.998% of people who are in science
Yeah.
are governed by dollars,
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
And it even in a university level. So I thought about being an astrophysicist at one point. I liked astronomy, like physics and whatever. And I'm like, okay, I like this, Then I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to work either for the government,
Yep,
or inadvertently for the government via university.
Yeah.
Making, if I'm lucky, $75,000 a year.
Yeah.
I have to publish probably at least once every so many years,
Right.
which I will not own it. I will
Right.
not reap the rewards of the benefits of it.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, I totally agree. Science in the beginning was isn't it always the ultimate quest for truth and
Yeah.
knowledge in and of itself, but when that gets hijacked by certain power structures, you no longer own the truth. It turns into what they call nowadays as your truth or my truth or truth or whatever. Back then, I mean Copernicus, no, the earth goes around the sun. Okay, you're excommunicated and you're burned at the stake, right? But
Roast them.
simply because you dare to either question authority or the standing orthodoxy of it. But let's,
Yeah,
as we discuss the conspiracy theories,
sure.
I love, because all the way back, how do you explain then the Nephilim? The church doesn't talk about it. Yes, it's mentioned, and then
Oh,
nothing more.
well, that's
And
another book, right?
yeah,
It's a book,
totally other one.
Enoch,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Reading, if you get a chance to read the book of Enoch, there's a couple of good versions, and a lot of them you can actually get in PDF form online.
Sure.
Free. That will blow your mind about everything.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly believe, I do believe that God's the angels in heaven lusted after the daughters of man.
Yeah.
And against God's wishes and procreated and created Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
And Nephilim, the reason why it is because it's a human angel hybrid.
Yeah.
And these things are we called demigods.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But you said Greek mythology.
Yeah.
What if these Nephilim were what the Greeks were talking about?
Of course. Yeah. Each society explains itself in its own way. So
Yep.
when it's no mistake that throughout all, go back to Gilgamesh, go back all that.
Yeah.
They all have their flood
The
stories.
Gilgamesh.
They all have their creation stories. Heck, even Native Americans refer to God as the Great Spirit. Even
Yes.
So I always thought that even at the beginning, when we talk about humanity, we very, very distant, fragmented echoes of something that went before.
Look at David versus Goliath.
Yeah. Right.
That was David, king of Hebrews.
Yes.
Weren't Jews because it would be Judea, but it was whatever.
Right. King of the Israeli, not Israel.
Israelites or something like that, whatever it was.
Yeah.
He's fighting a giant.
Mm-hmm.
That is a real giant. That's a Nephilim.
Yeah.
But that's what it was. And then you get to the point because I don't know, maybe God came back from his coffee break and like, what were you doing? He purges all these angels.
Right.
Some really badass angels.
Yeah.
And he destroys them, sends them to oblivion. He sends the watchers who are supposed to keep watch over this.
Yeah.
You know where he imprisons them for eternity or till a certain point?
Yeah.
In the River Jordan. Pay attention to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Sends them to the River Jordan and buries them under the water in the River Jordan. That's where he buries them.
Incredible. Yeah.
It's where they're locked up.
Yeah.
And if so he comes down, and then this is blasphemy. And he can't just go, I don't think, I can't, I don't want to speak for God, but God is just like, I gotta come. Okay, and now I know how to go. I'm gonna get rid of these things.
Right.
And I'm gonna get rid of the wicked people that allowed it to happen, because I've told them my laws and they just went against me. So they get this idiot named Noah.
Yeah.
And they have these flood stories. Now, I really do believe that I believe in Noah in the ark,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there were arks not only where Noah was. I think all over the world there was the other Noahs.
Sure.
But in Japan it was Yoshi. In Gaelic it was whatever. In this, and they begot what they needed to get, and the earth was flooded to eradicate giants.
Yeah.
It's in the book. Okay. So, I mean, 99% of them were eradicated.
Yeah.
Some of them escaped.
Right.
I don't know how they did, but they did. Maybe he didn't flood it enough. Okay. 40 days, 40 nights.
Yep.
Then it dries up, and then you have this whole thing. This is why we have, to this day, I think there's still, people are going to get mad at me. I still believe that there are races of giants that still exist, and they've procreated,
Mm-hmm.
and they're big. I'm not kidding. 30, 40, 50 feet tall.
Sure.
You want to know another conspiracy theory?
Yep. Go for it.
Devil's Tower.
Mm-hmm.
It's not rocks. It's a tree stump.
Really?
It's a
Okay.
tree stump.
Huh.
Look at it.
Expound on that for a bit.
If you really and Devil's Tower is just one of numerous structures. That thing was a ginormous tree. They even talk about it in some of the old books.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a tree that is a mile thick in circumference, and goes and is ginormous.
Yep.
And have you ever seen, I mean, this isn't pareidolia. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't civilizations doing carvings. If you look at what happens to wood when it turns to stone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are rock formations around this planet. And it looks like something happened which said, nope, boom, and shut it all down, killed it in its place, and turned it to stone.
Yeah.
There are stories in mythology that they were able to do that, turn things to stone.
Sure. Medusa.
There are giant foots. There are other things that it's a tree stump. It looks like a tree stump. It has the lines in it. It has the circles that you would if you cut a tree in half to test the age.
Yeah.
Trust me. Look into the tree stump theory on Devil's Tower. Yeah, I'm 99% positive, and I'm on as they call it, Team Stump. You're on Team Stump. I'm on Team Stump.
Excellent.
And I think, and if you think about this different ways, and you have giants that are 100 feet tall, I think you can have tree stumps that go up 1,000 feet.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
100-foot giant, 200-foot giant tall being living in an area where we're talking about oxen that are big. We're talking about animal. I think at one point these beings existed.
Mm-hmm.
And then for some reason, I can't tell you why or how, gone or flash frozen. There are rocks that look like snakes coiled up. I mean, like everything to a snake. If you looked at a snake under a microscope and you looked at this rock, it is exactly in the right place. The probability of that is so astronomical. But they'll say, oh, no, it's pareidolia. I'm like, dude, that ain't pareidolia.
Right. Hey, let's bounce ahead a little bit.
Sure, wherever.
Talk to me about any conspiracy theories that have to do with Jesus. I mean, because you have in the Old Testament, you have some of especially Isaiah, Ezekiel talk about what the Messiah could be, or what the Messiah may look like. Uh, but things were changed. It changed a little bit. Now, I'm a big proponent of an author by the name of Bart Ehrman, who questions a lot of the stuff.
Well, yeah.
How he goes from a apocalyptic figure to the Son of God, and then the morphing out of the very early writings into what we call the Trinity. I'm gonna get just some nasty grams and
You're gonna
hate
get
mail.
hammered for this. So I'm gonna keep this one a little, because I'm
Yeah.
not picking, I wasn't born into the religion, but I believe in Jesus Christ as a human being, person.
Yep.
And I believe Jesus Christ was one of the many messengers that were sent here by God.
Yep.
To tell people, you're messing up. And
Yeah.
he dropped an F-bomb, and like, look, dude, you got to you're doing a bit. That was dad saying, clean your damn room, straighten your stuff up, and then when I'm ready, I'll talk to you.
Right.
So, but here's the thing. I do believe that he came and he was in present day Middle East.
Sure.
Turkey, Middle East, the whole area there.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that these people have traveled from Turkey, Turkey, what's modern Turkey, to the Middle East, Sudan, and the whole desert area there.
Yeah.
I mean, it took years.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. The person that they portray him as, a very white, blonde hair, blue eyes individual, is not, in my opinion, what Jesus was, or Yeshua. Okay. Joshua.
Yeah.
He was not that. If you really want to look at, he is more olive complexion, darker skin, and the darker beard, and don't get me wrong, I think he had what everybody has. Like, so I have a beard, and I know people that have like black hair, and they have during the summer, when the height of the sun is there, they start getting blonder and lighter.
Sure.
And they'll get streaks in it. So I think that's where you got some of the lightness of the skin and whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think he's more Middle Eastern. So we're going to go with a brownish or tannish color.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily believe the story of, like, if I was Joseph, of like, so what you're saying is, well, I was out in that field over there, God came down and did what?
Yeah.
The Lord came down, and I'm like, get out of the house now.
Sure.
That's a little bit too much. I can't wrap my head around that. I could easily see that being more UFO based or alien implantation. Can it happen? If there, and I believe there's a God, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I can give you proof of it.
Sure.
Whatever. But besides that, here is a person, and then if he was growing up because of his Hebrew background, Israeli background, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's following the word of God given by, Moses, whatever, all that
the law,
stuff.
out of the Torah.
So then technically he's a rabbi.
Very much so.
Okay.
As your Western European has changed drastically to mirror their own
ideology.
Exactly. I mean, Jesus was a Jew. He was very much Jewish.
100%, right? And but what I think, I really do believe that God, in that case, it would be, I don't know if they call him Hashem or Adonai. There's a 4-letter word for God, but I don't remember it, and I'm probably going to get killed from many people for this, but whatever. So I actually believe that he was strong enough, smart enough, and charismatic enough. And he was chosen by the higher power, which we know as God, to say, "You're going to be my messenger."
Yeah.
Because I think he, growing up, and the way he was raised, he saw all the injustices going on. And I think something like that's wrong, but he didn't know how to do it. And then at one moment, I want to say he had a religious experience, but that's basically it.
Yeah.
And he was begotten the messenger of God. And maybe he was in contact with God, and he was doing his best to, this is wrong, I'm gonna fix it. And he went into the marketplace, and he got, and he stored up all this crap and whatever. And then, but he was saying the right things, because you don't need to, I mean, there may be a little bit more like, not like cultish, but he was also another one that says, I don't know if he alluded to being God's messenger, but basically he's telling you against the control, the church.
Yeah.
And the church being the synagogues, the temples, and whatever, which are all about money and power.
Yep.
And he's like, no, you don't need that. God, you can talk to God 24/7.
Yeah.
Okay. And for him dying on behalf of everybody, I don't know if he was really into that part of the program. He may have done that. Okay. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't believe him. There's different groups. So there's Catholics or Christian. Some of them believe him as that he is God.
Yeah.
So there's God, but he is God.
Yeah.
Others believe in God, but they also believe Jesus as the son of. Okay.
Right.
By the way, anybody who's a man in this world is a son of God. Anybody who's a woman is a son of God. Yeah, I mean a daughter of God. Sorry, that's a totally different subject. But so him dying for the sins, apparently, right? I died for your sins. I took it instead of you, being punished. God punished me, his only son. Whatever the dramatics were, I could tell you one thing. I do believe he was a messenger. That's why he was the Messiah. That's what Messiah is.
Right.
There's numerous messiahs. Buddha's a messiah.
Yep.
Shiva may be a messiah. There's so many different ones. I mean, I can go on, Krishna and whatever. God goes for individuals 99% of the time that are really troublemakers, but they have this Svengali about them to lead people.
Right. Yeah.
People will follow. Moses wasn't a nice guy. If you really look up what Noah was doing to his kids, not a nice guy. Okay. I don't want to but he knows that they have the abilities to, they have the potential. And I think that's where it is. It's all about potential.
Sure.
So their narrative, though, that he's white and blah, 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 blah. I don't understand if you know the story of him, and he comes from it's not Jewish, because that would be Judea.
Yeah.
Okay. He's Hebrew, or that's where he's descended from for the most part, Hebrew. And if you have no problem with him being a Hebrew, but once he becomes Jesus, now you have a problem with Hebrews. You don't have your stuff together.
Yeah, I mean, we could spend.
I don't want to. I'm not here to start a fight.
No, not at all.
Anybody.
Yeah, it's a very contentious subject, and it really is based on what you believe. But I also believe within that, though, I mean, you can't deny that there has been things that have been covered up, not talked about.
100%.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot darker in complexion.
Oh, sure.
And that would not bode well for the people that are racist.
Right.
I do not. Oh, this is going to kill you. There's a lot of evidence coming out. This is a bad show because people just listen to it. This is the problem with our society, our world. They get the 30-minute bites, right? 30-second, 30-minute bites. They don't do any research. They just said, well, this guy said it was safe to take. You're like, well, you know what? You may want to do something called a read. Reading is fundamental, RIF. I grew up on Saturday morning. They told reading is fundamental. They don't do that. They just hear it and they jump. Okay.
Yeah.
The bottom line is whoever power groups are going to use that person and adapt them to whatever their belief is and want. And that's going to be the rule. And that's the conspiracy. Because then they get the control over it. Well, Jesus was white.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was Asian.
Right. And then that's what they really they have a term for that now, controlling the narrative.
Yeah. Well, it's
You know?
interesting. I saw something recently, and this is a cave. I don't remember where it was, but it may have been more towards what's oh more where they believe the Ark of the Covenant is like
Ethiopia.
it's Ethiopian,
Yeah.
and they're very, very dark.
Oh yeah.
Okay, he may have been more in that zone. I think more so as far as where it is,
Right.
but they found a cave near there or in the within the jurisdiction. You have to go deep, deep, deep underground. It's an original petroglyph of painting of Jesus, and they said, and it talks about the birth of Jesus and the star and the whole thing. So I think there is some truth to that.
Yeah.
That narrative. Okay. But they depict him as a lot darker than you and I together.
I
You
totally
know, I'm in the sun and I look a little bit peachy here, which is nice. Thank you very much. But darker, like Middle Eastern. Like, you know.
Totally. Yeah. And
Yeah.
people gloss over that today. I'm also I'm probably gonna get myself in trouble here too, but I'm also a proponent of the Ark of the Covenant being down in Ethiopia. It's it says at the destruction of the temple, they took it somewhere, right? And
Well,
so I think they took it down into Ethiopia.
Who is the queen of Ethiopia?
Yeah. And
who is she? Who's her boyfriend?
Yeah, exactly. So
it's there. I think it's in that building.
Yep.
That's guarded 24/7.
Yeah. And they won't let you in, and it's amazing that no one talks about the fact that that the high priests that are there to watch over and defend it if need be, they all go blind.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is something that makes each person go blind eventually? It's got to be something really powerful.
Well, what's interesting about it, there's also rumors. This is just rumor. I can't talk about it's conspiracy. So we were all basically conspiracy theory is rumors.
Yeah.
But a lot of conspiracy theory is really factual and has some rumor in it. And if you wanted to keep score up until this point, the conspiracy theorists are about 1,000%, and the people that go for the facts are negative numbers at this point. Okay,
right.
You've been proven. There's a lot of people that have been proven right.
Yeah.
But there's a rumor that a lot of the old guard that is watching and goes with the tradition, and God, I give people credit for living a life like that, because with what's going on today, the temptation is so like, I'm out of here, type of thing.
Yeah.
That's devotion, but that's what eventually when you connect to the higher spirit, you'll feel the same way eventually. These people are supposed to be like super old, like hundreds of years old.
Right. Yeah.
And it's weird. It's kind of like, every time I speak of the Ark of the Covenant, covenant, I always think of Indiana Jones.
Right.
I also, when I think of the cup of Christ, I see that old Knights Templar sitting there. You chose wisely,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've always, I don't know, it's a gut feeling. I believe the Ark is there, and it's very well protected.
Right.
Besides the fact that it has its own alarm system, whatever.
Yeah.
And I really do think these people are like hundreds, if not, we're talking about people like Abraham and 900 plus years old.
Yeah.
Like it was nothing.
Right.
You know what? My kid is 11 years old and she's bored staying home this long day weekend. I'm like, well, you only got 900 more years to worry about then, honey.
Right.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah. it's amazing. Yeah, the Bible.
I think they're gonna. Oh, this is. I'll talk to you about a different conspiracy theory,
Okay.
which goes back to. Well, I'll just get into it. So,
Yep.
I've been talking to another friend of mine. He's in the UK, who studies a lot of religion as well, but he does some, very, very smart, wonderful person. And I'm going to keep his name out of it for, I want him to be protected so he doesn't get any crap. But we always have these conversations about what's going on in the world because we do pay attention to the stuff.
Yeah.
And he's into the medical field, and we'll get into that probably too. But he gave me a list of there's a roadmap to Armageddon. Okay. And I don't have it on me, and forgive me, but he said, World War II is one. That there's certain things have to be checked off before we know we're at the point where Armageddon, like Revelations type of stuff.
Sure.
And he goes, the next one's going to be big because if this goes off, we're really at that point. And that point is the Northern Alliance, and it invades Israel from the north. And that's Syria, that's Iran, and Russia, and some other country are going to come in and invade Israel from the north. And then what's going to happen, or supposed to happen, is God's wrath will come down, destroy all that, and reunite Israel again. And once that takes place, if I see that, and I think we're going to see this in our lifetime, I think we're going to see this in months. Okay.
Okay.
6 months to 18 months.
Okay.
Everything is in the right place for it. If that happens, we're in trouble, folks.
Right. Yeah.
We're in a lot of trouble.
Right.
And another thing, you studied it. A lot of people don't pray anymore.
No.
So a lot of the world's in trouble.
No, I totally agree. A lot of New Age, they talk about, well, the universe sends me this, the universe this and that. I mean, really, you've just taken out the word God, but you've given it to another sentient being that gives it to you.
Source gave it to me. Source,
the source, right?
Because you know what? If you put up the word God, because each religion has its own thing, like Jesus, like I'm trying to explain to my younger daughter because one of her friends has mixed parents. One's a Catholic Christian, the other, the father is Jewish. So she's mixed, but they go to church. And in this church, and it's in one of the newer churches where they're going to bring in families. And it's really interesting how they get people together, and it's more palatable.
Yeah.
But they teach Jesus is God. So when she goes, do you believe in God? And whatever. And then she, and this is one of my daughter's friends, and my daughter does believe in God. God.
Yeah.
Because we're in a different religion, but again, I don't conform to any of them. I just do my own thing, more spiritual, but I help, figure this out. And her friend went around school. Oh, she doesn't believe in God. She doesn't follow Jesus. And my daughter she's very opinionated. I raised her. She's smart, and she's super smart, and like an old spirit. And she goes, I do believe in God. What are you talking about? But then I had to explain to her, like, some people believe Jesus is God.
Yeah.
And they're Jews. They're called Messianic Jews. And they believe Jesus is the Savior, the Messiah.
Sure.
And they follow the path of Jesus. And getting back to that, if you really want to follow the true path of Jesus Christ, then you basically have to be an Orthodox Jew.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw it at you. So all those honey baked hams and the spiral hams, not going to work for you. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to circle back, but
no. All good.
Yeah.
So let's now talk about how civilization has moved forward. We're now into, of course, the post-industrial revolution. And explain to me a little bit about maybe some of the theories that contain to the founding of our nation.
Oh my God. So it's very interesting.
Mhm.
I've had a conversation about this, and I think I briefly touched on it, but yeah, I'm at the point right now where I thoroughly believe that there have been numerous civilizations on this planet,
Sure.
and they get to a certain point of like zero, like
Yeah.
falling under the ocean to technology,
Yeah.
and they do something and they mess up
Yeah.
and they kill themselves, and buildings come down, and then the sediment dust covers it all up for a bunch of years, and then they somehow it's tried again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether it's God doing it or extraterrestrials,
Yeah.
because I just don't understand how, if you have life and then you kill everybody,
Right.
there has to be something, a catalyst to make that life again. But if everything's dead, how does that happen?
Right.
Maybe we are an experiment in a giant extraterrestrial, science
Sure.
fair.
Sure.
I created Earth and they're little people, like whatever it is. It could be that. But because we're finding things in the historical record, like they recently found something, it looks like a flip phone.
Oh yeah, I saw
It,
that. Yeah.
okay, that's a flip phone. I had one.
Yeah.
And it's like 40,000 or 40 million years prior to anything older than they found.
Yeah.
And this is why we're starting to dig through certain layers, and we're coming up on this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain. Did so the modern posterior, like how this starts, I mean, there's a whole thing about Tartania,
Hmm.
the Tartans, who were civilizations that were here prior. And if you see the map, it's basically you got Asia and some of Africa, and then you got this big lump of land called Tatara.
Yeah.
And we're talking about buildings and technology. They're built, that they built all these using energy from the earth, like Tesla was talking about. They
Mhm.
built lighting and housing, and they worked off a frequency. And what happened was, this is where it gets weird. Something happened to this society, or it was cut down, and then the sediment came in, and now we're starting to build things on top of it. So we get the pyramid that's coming up from the ground
Mhm.
in Egypt, right? Like, who built that?
Yeah.
But if and we like, oh my God, it's there, and it's got to be a tomb for anything. No, that's another conspiracy theory. It's not a tomb. It's actually a battery, and
Yeah.
it worked off a sound, frequency, and vibration. And we can go into that later. But so I believe that over time, through societal needs, which I don't think it's all about Africa. I think it's more Middle Eastern over to the Asians of where life really was, you know. And as we started learning more and becoming the enlightened ears, the thinkers, and in that part of the world, we begot a group of individuals that were, well, they'll call them Freemasons now, but there was a group like, we should be paid more money than we have.
Mhm.
And that's what it is about. It was about wages, and it was about enlightenment and being smart and knowing how to um gauge communications via real astrology,
Yeah.
movements, suns, and whatever.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then what happened is, from the oppression, you know then we moved over here.
Sure.
So the conspiracy about how America was formed is that it's really um part of the dogma of the church, and they're really in control of everything.
Mhm.
And England is the one that's doing it, where they sent a secret ship over here, and then they put colonies here to colonize it.
Mhm.
I don't think it's a government saying, hey, we're gonna have another group over there, and then we'll own this whole area.
Yeah.
That's part of the conspiracy theory of it. I think, and that's what people is taught. Like, there was so much oppression and whatever, and then you know um, they wanted to explore the world, and it just doesn't make sense. The narratives that they keep teaching us in school
Mhm.
about, like, wait a minute, but why did Columbus come here again? Or who was it? who's going for spices?
Hey, that was a great interview. Now, that was just part one. Part two coming up next episode. It is going to knock your socks off. Okay, guys, we got exciting new news. We got some live streaming coming soon on YouTube. I think you'll really enjoy that, and you can be a part of the action. So, hey, it's a win-win. Hey, we're going to do some live radio shows. I got my own streaming server, and so we're going to do some live radio. You're going to, again, that's where I thrive. I come from a radio background. So we're going to put the midnight and some midnight alchemy coming real soon within the next week or two. Okay, and as always, you can voicemail us. We have a voicemail line, 971-205-2464. Again, 971-205-2464. And you can email us at midnightalchemyshow@gmail.com, midnightalchemyshow@gmail.com. Hey, another little bit of news. We're going to be having our own website. It's going to be coming up again. It should be up fairly shortly. Hopefully it's up by the time I'm on the microphone here. If not, it'll be up soon. Check it out. It'll be great. And I'll give you the Addy for you on my Facebook. Now listen, go up to the Facebook page, join, like, give us a nice review. We could always use that as we are a newer fledgling show. All right, folks, until next time, I'm going to ride off into the sunset. This has been Midnight Alchemy, and I am Jason Allen. Folks, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and arrivederci.